So we had a request to talk about the hedges against inflation, and I wanted to start with real estate because real estate's something that everybody on the planet is exposed to. One way or the other, you're participating in this hedge. I also have to mention this is for educational purposes only, definitely not investment advice. I have no idea what your personal circumstances are or how to ever advise you in that capacity. Quick update on inflation. The Federal Reserve has changed its stance. It previously said they're not going to have any interest rate hikes until 2024. They said inflation is just transitory. Don't worry about it. It's just all in your head. Now they're starting to see that this is actually real, and they're proposing to do 2 rate increases by the end of 2023, and they are upping their projection of raw inflation to 3.4%. Right now we're at 5%. I don't see it going down, so they're optimistic. I'm not. Inflation's 2 best friends are definitely Jerome Powell and Janet Yellen. Jerome Powell, our Fed chair, isn't doing enough to combat inflation, and Janet Yellen is our Treasury Secretary and former Fed chair, who is just going along with those in power, their agenda to spend money as rapidly as possible. The more money we spend, the more we have to borrow, the more the money supply expands. It's not good. So a modest rate increase will tighten the money supply a little bit because it's going to attract people to buy bonds. And when they buy bonds, that money gets taken out of the money supply for a given amount of time. It helps tighten up the money supply. I don't know if it's going to tighten it up enough to counteract all this crazy spending we're doing. Also, when you try to use higher interest rates to treat inflation, there's quite a lag. The bad effects of the higher interest rates come first before the good effects happen, and they can take years. Our good friend Milton Friedman explains it much better than I do. Let's hear what he has to say.
In 1973, Japanese housewives going to market were faced with an unpleasant fact. The cash in their purses seemed to be losing its value. Prices were starting to soar as the awful story of inflation began to unfold once again. The Japanese government knew what to do. What's more, they were prepared to do it. When it was all over, economists were able to record precisely what had happened. In 1971, the quantity of money started to grow more rapidly. As always happens, inflation wasn't affected for a time. But by late 1972, it started to respond. In early 73, the government reacted. It started to cut monetary growth, but inflation continued to soar for a time. The delayed reaction made 1973 a very tough year of recession. Inflation tumbled only when the government demonstrated its determination to keep monetary growth in check. It took 5 years to squeeze inflation out of the system. Japan had attained relative stability. Unfortunately, there's no way to avoid the difficult road the Japanese had to follow before they could have both low inflation and a healthy economy. First, they had to live through a recession until slow monetary growth had its delayed effect on inflation. Inflation is just like alcoholism. In both cases, when you start drinking or when you start printing too much money, the good effects come first. The bad effects only come later. That's why, in both cases, there's a strong temptation to overdo it, to drink too much and to print too much money. When it comes to the cure, it's the other way around. When you stop drinking or when you stop printing money, the bad effects come first, and the good effects only come later. That's why it's so hard to persist with the cure.
So why is real estate such a good hedge against inflation? Well, we have to assume a couple things. One, we're pretty safe to assume that we're going to be dealing with inflation for the next decade over 2%. The other thing we got to assume is that property value grows along with the inflation rate. So as inflation continues to drive prices up, it will also drive up the prices of property. In inflationary times, when you save money, when you save dollars, you lose purchasing power over time. So $1,000 what would buy you $1,000 today in 10 years might only be able to buy you $400 worth of goods or services. So saving dollars long term in inflationary times isn't going to get you anywhere. When you borrow money during inflationary times at a lower interest rate than the inflation rate, you're going to come out ahead as long as you're not borrowing for consumption. If you're borrowing for an investment, and that investment is a hedge against inflation, you're going to be paying this loan off long term with debased dollars. Therefore, you're coming out ahead. Let's give an example. Let's say you're able to get a 15-year mortgage at 2% interest rate, which is realistic right now. Let's say the inflation rate is going to average around 7% over the next 10 years, and the following 5 years, we're going to get it down to about 2.5% on average. And these are fictitious numbers, but let's say you have year one, $10,000 worth of mortgage payments. Year two, you're still making that $10,000 mortgage payment, but the purchasing power of that payment is only going to buy you $9,300 worth of goods and services. And as you can see, as time goes on, you're paying less than half in purchasing power to make those mortgage payments than you were when you started. So again, the banks are not getting such a great deal, and you are. During this time period, you're also going to have to assume that as you grow in your career, your salary is going to grow along with inflation, but as you build up skills, as you build up experience, you will be able to get better and better positions, and your earning power will be much greater. So in the end, you come out way ahead. Also keep in mind where you're at in life, where you're at in your career. If you're younger and you have a lot of opportunity ahead of you and a lot of growth potential, inflation can be a very good thing for you if you're putting your money into the right hedges to hedge against inflation. You can be very well off. Where inflation is quite devastating is for the elderly who have no employment opportunities, no growth earning potential, and that are on a fixed income. It's quite devastating. And it just goes back to the reality of economics. There are no solutions. There are no solutions to inflation. There are no solutions to deflation that don't have trade-offs. There's always going to be compromises. Things are going to work a little better for some and not others. And it's just compromise after compromise. And unfortunately, we live in a political world that doesn't face compromise with any sense of reality. Let's take a look at some scenarios. Everyone has a primary residence, whether you're renting or owning, you're on some side of this equation. So let's say you own your primary residence. It's likely going to increase in value about 12% a year. Of course, there are exceptions to that. If you're in a state like California, which is ranked as the worst state to do business in, where people are leaving, where business and industry is fleeing, you're not going to do as well with a real estate investment in California versus a place like Florida or Texas, where business and industry is moving in, where population is growing at record rates. You just can't compare the two. You'll do way better and have a much better hedge against inflation in states like that. If you're in other parts of the country where things are stable, you'll probably do about 12%. And the same thing goes for residential income property, about 12%. So in these situations, if you have the ability to refinance at a lower rate, that's a great thing to do that's lower than the inflation rate. Or let's say if your term is about to end soon, maybe you only have 5 or 6 years left on your mortgage. If you refinance it to a 15-year mortgage, you can start paying back the remainder of what you owe with inflated dollars over time. It'll be a much better deal for you because you can use that money you're saving instead of making those big mortgage payments every month. Use that extra money to either supplement your lifestyle or to reinvest it into other areas. Either way, you're coming out ahead. On a residential income property, When you get a mortgage for that, it's usually about 1% higher than a primary residence because it's an income property. But remember, it's your tenants that will be paying off that mortgage, not you per se. But there are also downsides. Troublesome tenants, or if you don't want to deal with that and you use a firm to manage property, they can eat away at your profits as well. The other area I wanted to cover is the 1031 exchange. Joe Biden and his administration are very, very determined to end the 1031 exchange. So what does that mean? What is the 1031 exchange? Well, when you have commercial property, so let's just say you're a small business, whether it be a small duplex rental income property, small, 4-unit apartment building, or maybe you're a auto body repair shop in a small piece of land. And you want to expand. Either you want to buy a bigger apartment building or you want to expand your auto body shop and go onto a bigger property so you can grow your business. Well, currently with the 1031 exchange, when you sell your property to buy the other property you want to invest in, whatever appreciation that property had, you normally would be paying capital gains tax. But because it's a commercial property, you can defer that capital gains tax to the 1031 exchange and put all the money, all the proceeds from the sale into the new property. If you ended this, it would be devastating to small businesses, to small rental property owners, because they would be stuck and confined in the property they're at. Like the auto repair shop guy, he wouldn't be able to expand his business because he would be losing half of the growth of that property in taxes, and he wouldn't be able to buy a big enough property to expand his business. So it's really a devastating thing. I don't think Congress will be able to eliminate it. At the end of the day, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, you have very wealthy donors with property interests that would be very much opposed to this. So I don't really see this happening. The fact that they talk about it, the fact that they want to eliminate it is just horrifyingly stupid. The other area, let's say if you have your primary residence, or you're saving up to do your first primary residence and you're not quite ready to buy that, or you're not have the means to do a rental property, you can still invest in commercial real estate through an ETF. You can put, $100, $1,000, a small amount of money into an ETF fund. One of the most well-known ETF funds for this is the Schwab US REIT. And the ticker symbol for that is SCHH. Last year it did about 36%. It doesn't always do that high, so it's not, some years it could only do 7% or 6%, but, it fluctuates with the market. But that is a way to get property exposure with a small amount of money that you want to sock away. So it's a great opportunity. If you're interested in that and you want to invest in the market that way, I highly recommend Webull. There's a link in the description. You'll get 2 free stocks if you sign up. I use it myself. I think it's a great opportunity, and it's a very easy system to use. Thank you so much for making it to the end. Please write 1031 in the comments to let me know you made it all the way to the end. Really happy with the growth of this channel. Please keep sharing these videos. Help others learn. I love your comments. I read almost all of them, believe it or not. And keep commenting, keep sharing, subscribe, hit that notification bell, because when you subscribe, you usually don't even get notifications, so that helps a lot. And please give this video a like. It really helps the channel out. If you haven't already, please check out and install the Brave browser. It is the best for speed, compatibility, and privacy. If you're using it already, go ahead and hit that triangle up in the corner, and it's a great way to show your support for this channel. You can also earn basic attention tokens when you use Brave, which you can convert to Bitcoin, US dollars, whatever you want. It's a great way for you to earn the ad revenue instead of the other guys. In the description, I have some referral links for products I use myself. There's one for the American Express Amazon Prime card. Immediately upon approval, you get $125 deposited into your Amazon account. You don't have to spend $1 on the card. It is the best deal out there. Also, if you sign up with Coinbase, you can get $10 worth of free Bitcoin. If you sign up for Webull, the best trading platform out there, 0 fees and 2 free stocks at sign up. Also, if you already have cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever, Celsius will earn you interest on your cryptocurrency. There's referral links to get you about $90 worth of free Bitcoin. Thanks again so much. I really appreciate all the support. Take care.